Hello there.
Hello.
What's going down? You're on the recovery pod. Not the best intro, but we'll fuck with it.
Okay.
All right, so gaslighting, right? I saw, read, heard somewhere, don't remember where, that gaslighting, we all know what gaslighting is and we'll talk about it, but like gaslighting in recovery. So you go to the meeting, you sit down, you're early recovery, you're resistant, you want to do things your way, and the old timers got all the advice in the world, and most of it is telling you what you need to do. Otherwise, what's going to happen is you're going to relapse. So somebody had flipped this to where it was like a form of gaslighting. Like, well, if you don't go to meetings or listen to your sponsor or do what he says, and if you don't, do A, B, and C by the book the way I do it, you're just going to relapse. And they're like, that's gaslighting, because people, they're like naturally resistant. We all want to do things our own way. We're stubborn, and just putting that energy and that thought out there is like kind of like defeating people, pushing them away, and almost like getting it in their head to create that destiny in a way. I don't know. I just thought it was an interesting flip. Kind of wondering your thoughts.
Well, so gaslighting to me means is an attempt to control how somebody is feeling and their just perspective. Yeah, that's a good one. An attempt to control their perspective.
Okay.
So, yes, I agree that those people do have that attempt, because they're just like, well, you have to see things my way.
Right.
Kind of like with, a typical gaslighting with a narcissist. Like, oh, well, I didn't do that. That's an attempt to make them see a certain way, even if... But with them, it's a whole nother level. It's... They're wanting for you to see what they want you to see, not what they're actually seeing. So, but yeah... I knew that was gonna freaking happen. So with those old timers or whoever, they don't come at with it with like a negative impact.
Right. It's not like a bad intention.
Yeah, it's not. So yeah, so it's basically them trying to limit your perspective, the way you're seeing everything. So instead of that, I feel like it would just be better to just be like, okay, well, this worked for me. And that's not to say that it's not important for them to warn people. Like, I know I do that. Like, like if you're going to date within your, first couple of months of recovery, there is a chance that you are it's not gonna go over well.
You mean I'm in recovery for alcohol. I shouldn't date this new person at 3 months sober who drinks every day?
And just try to shift focus off myself.
And I shouldn't go to parties or hang out at the bar? Is that what you're saying?
Your fucking face right. Bar?
And we're going to the bar?
Yeah, so like just telling somebody, yeah, if you go to the bar, you will relapse. If you hang out with partiers, you will relapse. And if somebody were to tell me that back when I was on my bullshit, I would be like, yeah, you know what, I am gonna relapse. But because nobody did that, everybody's like, okay, this isn't a good idea.
Yeah, keep an eye on that.
Yeah.
I know I'd say stuff like that to you. Like, just keep
an
eye on that. How do you feel? And ask questions. But I'm also trained,
yeah,
to kind of have these conversations in ways that do and don't work. But like the old school way is like, you need to work the steps or you're going to die. And like, that's not to say that there's not truth there, that it's not a good suggestion. I think it's just a poor delivery.
Yes.
But I like the idea of looking at that as gaslighting, that that you are basically putting a perspective in their head now that they're going to relapse if they don't do what you say.
Yes.
And there's a lot of ego in recovery. There is a lot of ego in recovery. Like these people who got time under their belts and they've been around there, like there are well-intentioned people who know what the fuck they're talking about, but there is some ego dick, and they swing it, and it's big. They sword fight with the ego dick, and like, I've just seen it a lot. Not with too many people, and not with everybody, obviously, but like with some people, they're just the fucking grandmasters of recovery. Haven't probably spotted a defect in years. Therefore, they're basically there just going unnoticed, trying to just be like the guy in the meeting with the power and the prestige to like boss around his little ants. You know what I mean? Like I've seen people like that, and I spot it, and I'm like, I see that, and I go, don't be like that guy. Like make sure you remain teachable, so I don't ever feel like I got this shit figured out. I know what works for me, and I will try to tell someone what worked for me. But I'm never going to be like, you have to read A New Earth and, become mindful and meditate, or else you're going to be like, so distraught in your recovery. Like, that's just defeating. And my path isn't your path, isn't his path, But it's hard. It's kind of hard not to. Because when you see people early in recovery and they are doing all these dangerous things. They don't go to meetings. They hang out with their friends who still use, their partners use. They cling. They want it their way, and they want to try like hell to make it work their way. Everybody's so damn sensitive. They can't take a suggestion without fucking being butthurt and not coming back around. And I don't know. It's like you want to warn them because some people will go out there and die if they relapse. But at the same time, me shoving my truth in their face isn't helping either. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I really, I never thought of it like that because, in our meetings, we don't see that where people will wave their ego dicks around and want to be that guy who is in power, who has the most years under their belt, who is going to tell you what to do. So I haven't actually ever seen that. Even in like the Russian rehab I've been in, there was a different kind of toxicity over there. I'm telling you right now.
God. Well, you can tell us about it one day.
I will. But it's not that. It's not that. So, but yeah, so like those guys, those people doing that is like, they want to feel empowered, like they want to feel like they're in power. They want to control what you do, and they want you to see things like they do. And even though it is with good intent, when it comes to like trying to control somebody's anything, perspective, feeling, anything, that's when you become that, person. Just basically you grow a giant ego dick. So yeah. So yeah, it is like gaslighting. When you first brought it up, I'm just like, gaslighting is trying to control people, right? But then I'm like, wait, hold it. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you're trying to control someone, control their view on recovery, control their program, control what they do in recovery, because there's so many levels. Like, you could come to meetings religiously and you can not be around using friends, and you can say no to that partner who uses, but then they're going to be like, well, if you don't work the steps with your sponsor, you're, not going to survive. Or if you don't call your sponsor every day, like I hated that one because I don't want to call someone every day. Like I don't feel like I need to call my sponsor every day. I call them if I don't even call them when I'm going through shit because I have multiple resources to use. Like I can call my girlfriend, I can call my friend, I can go to a meeting, and I can get a message from anywhere in recovery. Like I'm not calling my old using buddies, but even sometimes they have some decent shit because I've kind of rubbed off on them a little bit. But like, I can get a message from anywhere, and I feel like this whole, and it's different nowadays. It's not quite the pyramid scheme it used to be, where it's like guys with the most time are the gurus you need to listen to, and the sponsor is your like savior, and the person who basically is like your life coach now. It's a little different. But there is still that mentality out there. But I mean, I can admit that, like, even when in my job, like when people come in and they're like, well, I still want to smoke weed, or, well, I just want to quit doing meth, but I like drinking and smoking. It's like part of me is like, I just need to warn you, bro.
Yeah.
Like, you're staying under the thumb of the addiction. Like, yeah, you're not gonna be out in the streets or up for 6 days straight like you were on meth. You're not gonna like rob your mom's jewelry to go get a joint, but you're gonna still live in this like foggy, mindset where your coping skills aren't developed naturally, and you're not really grasping these tools of recovery because you still have a blockage there, and you turn to the joint or you turn to the beer to loosen up before you turn to some other form of anger management, or break some of those like limited beliefs and barriers that keep you in your shell. You know what I mean? Like, I was in my shell like a motherfucker. I needed like all these specific drugs to get out of my shell, basically to just get out of the way of my judgments of myself. But like in the last few years, I've been able to like address those, and now I'm hardly ever in my head or in my shell. I'm just chilling. Like, but yeah, like, yeah, it's hard, and because like you want to warn someone, you want to let them know, like, hey, man. But the best answer, especially in meetings, I've heard this said a lot, where when someone's like talking about going back out and relapsing, they're just like, all right, let me know how it is out there. If you make it back, let me know. My recovery coach would say that all the time. She'd just straight up be like, oh, you're thinking about kind of using again? I'm like, well, I don't know. And she's like, oh, well, fucking go do it. I'm like, what? And then she's like, yeah, I mean, see ya. Let me know how it is. And I'm like, well, I don't want to do it. I was just thinking about it. And she goes, well, then what the fuck are you talking about? Like, it was just that simple. But if she was like, no, don't do it. Oh my God, like, you have so much to lose, or just think about all the stuff you've gained from recovery, I'd be like, yeah, but I'm arguing for the other side.
Right.
So yeah, kind of like you were saying, like, just sharing my experience with you. Take what you want from it. I'm not controlling you. Like, I will gladly help anybody, but I'm there for me. Like, if you don't want it, that's not my problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and like, man, now I'm realizing a little bit, like, with people that I'm sponsoring, I know what works for me, right? So I'm like, I'm trying to push that shit. I'm like, hey, like, you should try. I'm not saying, like, you have to do this or you will relapse. I don't say that shit. I'm just like, hey, you should really try this out.
And that's different.
Yeah, I guess.
That's totally different.
It is, yeah.
Bro, I push a New Earth on anybody that'll listen to me.
Yeah.
Go buy a New Earth. Read it. If you don't like the first chapter, skip that shit. It's weird. What is this I am a plant thing? Fuck this book. Is this guy talking about? Like,
I like
nah,
that
bro.
chapter.
I do too. But like, I've had like at least 3 to 5 people be like, what the fuck is this? And they don't read it. I might just skip to chapter 2. You get into that ego shit. That's where I want you to be. But yeah, it's never like, oh, you won't ever, get to a healthy mindset if you don't read this book. It's not like that. So I think it's way different. And I think the approaches we both take with our sponsees are like, I leave a fair amount to them. Like, this is on you. Sometimes I feel bad for not reaching out more, pushing them more, but this is on them. Like, I'm here. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I have all the suggestions in the world for you. If you don't take them, you know what I mean? That's on you. But like, no, I'm not going to deal with them coming back at me with the same shit every day.
Yeah.
Like complaining about problems that I offer solutions for and they don't try. Eventually I'm going to be like, well, have you tried anything? Yeah. Well, I mean, what do you want me to say, man? You figure out the cheat code to make it work, how you want it to work, let me know. Like, same thing I say when people want to moderate and casually or successfully use. I'm like, if you figure out the fucking cheat code, tell me. Like, because I don't know it, And I don't really want it, but that's just kind of like my loose way of being like, hey, there was a way, Anyway, fuck that cheat code. It doesn't exist.
I don't know. I just feel like people have to be at a certain level of desperation to be able to take suggestions.
Yeah.
To be able to just start changing something. Because, if people are doing something they're not supposed to or whatever, and it's been working for them, why would you how can you expect them to, like, first of all, see what they're doing, and then, like, want to change that? And, like, some people even, like, they'll hit a, a roadblock or something, and then they'll somehow, like, magically bounce back from it, and then, just continue with their behavior, thinking, oh, it's fine this time, kind of like, I don't know, with, like, your leg, right? As soon as it gets better, it's like, oh, well, I don't need to do any of this.
Yeah.
So it's like, people have to get there themselves.
Right.
They have to get to a point where shit, like, really realize, like, I can't keep doing this.
Mm-hmm.
So then you want to try something different. I mean, I got to a point where I was ready to jump at anything. You telling me about, I mean, I knew about New Earth before, but I didn't want to read it. But it's like, after you telling me, like, hey, like, this is really good shit. And I was like, fuck, man. Like, I'm desperate. So it is true that it's a gift of desperation.
That's because change is scary. Like, it's unknown. And it's not guaranteed.
Yeah, so you have to get to a point where the idea of change is less scarier than where you're at. Does that make sense?
I almost thought you were going to say exactly what I was going to say. And you started to.
What were you going to say?
Where the fear of change is less scary than the fear of staying the same.
That's pretty much what I said.
It is pretty much. But I thought you were going to say it word for word, and I was going to be like, what? Fucking get out of my head. Nah, but yeah. That's where it's at. Like, dude, for years, I just sat there using in my cycle. I hated it. I mean, I didn't hate every single moment of it, but I was really distraught. I was just like, dude, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah.
But I didn't know. One, I didn't think recovery was possible for me. So that stops you right there, because why am I going to try something I'm pretty much certain is not going to work? And I didn't know what that would be like. I didn't know if I would, like, feel everything as intensely as day one forever. I didn't know if I would have any type of grip on my emotions, or if it was even possible. I didn't know if my dopamine would calibrate and I'd actually enjoy little things again. I didn't know any of that shit. And when I went to meetings back then, I was forced to, but everybody being all like, oh my God, life's so much better for me, blah, blah. But then they had, like, the really in-depth, like, recovery, like, addiction journeys that I couldn't relate with. So I was like, well, you're just happy to be out of this crazy, wild hole you were in. I'm not really in a hole like that. Like, I was in a hole, but it was more like, and it was worse because nothing was bad enough to be like, dude, you have to stop. It was just like, fucking tired of just being right below this surface. Like, I'm just grinding right below the surface for like 15 years. And I'm just like, it's like, it's not horrible, but it sucked, man. And it was just, so anyway, it had to get to that point where I was like losing my mind and so not in control of any of my thoughts or emotions, to where I just had to get desperate and be like, all right then, like, whatever. Go to meetings? All right, then. I'll do it, Like 90 days? What? Like, fuck, dude. You want me to just breathe recovery? But all right, man, if that's what you're saying, I'll do it. Well, actually, we'd like you to try go to one every day for a year. I was like, hold up. Hold up. Now you're asking too much. And, I pretty much continued going to meetings now. Fuck, I went to 6 meetings last week, but it's usually like 2. 2 is good for me. I'm good with 1 a week. Like, I've got almost 6 years. Like, I'm good. I do my groups, so that's technically I probably did like 11 meetings last week. Because I'm involved in my groups, I enjoy it, but I'm also facilitating and kind of have to be there, so I don't count those. But yeah, they definitely don't let me off the hook. I'm involved in them. And I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Meetings.
Meetings. Don't touch meetings. They're meetings. Meetings. I think we got some fire-ass meetings.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just saying, like, very rarely is it just decent. And that's as low as it ever gets for me. Is good. Are you bored or something?
I'm sorry.
I'm fucking tired. Jeez, every time I start talking,
no, I really don't mean to. I'm sorry.
I know. No, but like I've been to a lot of meetings, and I don't think any meetings are like. Well, there are some bad meetings. There are some bad meetings. So if you don't like meetings, and it's a whole lot of shit you don't like, try a different meeting.
Yeah.
Like if I go to a drug dealer and he's got some bonk shit and I know that there's like 5 other drug dealers.
This is not a good metaphor.
It is. I'm going to go to the other drug dealers. You know what I mean? That's just what I'm going to do. If you don't got what I want, I'm going to find it somewhere else before I give up.
How about let's do a different one and just say,
okay, all right,
doing the same thing.
All right. I'll be appropriate. If I go to fucking Ruby Tuesdays and they fuck my steak up every time I go there, but I know there's an Applebee's right there and there's 5 other chains, I'm gonna go get my steak somewhere else before I just keep going to fucking Ruby Tuesdays.
There you go.
All right.
Doing the same thing and expecting a different result.
Well, not just that. Not just that. Sorry. She was about to blow you away. No. So I'm not saying expecting the same different result. I'm saying what people will do is they'll go to a meeting and they'll be like, meetings suck. Like I've had people go to this one meeting I think sucks. And they're like, this meetings suck because all I hear is this and that. And like people are like this and that. I'm like, well, yeah, that meeting fucking sucks. Like they go there, they bitch about their problems week after week. They don't bring any solutions to the table. They're not talking about recovery principles. They're just whining, bitching, and moaning. Like, and the only people that like end up kind of sticking around that meeting are the people who go there to whine and bitch and moan and get co-signed and bullshit. So when someone new to recovery comes and they're like, oh, I'm gonna check out this meeting, and they go to that meeting, now their whole idea of recovery sucks because they're like, what the fuck is this? Like, I don't want to go to these. It's not helping me. You know what I mean? So anyway, yeah.
Is this a little meeting ego dick that's flying around?
Yes it is. Yes, it is. Damn it. Our meetings are fire, man. Hey.
No, that's true. Like, in comparison to other meetings that I've checked out so far, like, that one is the one where you got people bitching and moaning the least. In fact, there's not a single person on that meeting who does that shit.
Right?
Literally. Not even, like, me.
Whoa.
No, seriously.
That's huge.
Huge. Don't push it. So, yeah.
No, and it's not an ego dick. It's not because it's our meeting or the one. Like, I went to that meeting because that's what gravitated me. Like, when it was just a few of the core people who have been there for a while, that's how that meeting was. It was very enlightening. It was very like focused on themselves, focused on solutions. Yeah, we talk about our problems, we share our load, but we don't just go and bitch and
Yes.
just complain week after week. You know, someone comes in, they have a rough day, they're going through some things, they let it out. They're just like, man, I'm just feeling like this. And then they come back and they're like, man, I'm glad y'all were there for me. I don't know what was up with me, or this is what was up with me. And this is kind of what I had to like help me to share that. You know what I mean? And we're all supportive of each other, but I don't know. It's just the vibe and the content I'm really digging. Like, I think if it wasn't for this meeting, like if it was only the other meetings I had experienced, I don't know if I would have found like a home group, a meeting that I want to go to as much more than just going to make sure I'm doing what is suggested to stay sober. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like the few times I've like just had relapse thoughts, I'm like, I'd probably still go to the meeting. Like I don't want to not go to the meeting. Like, but yeah, which is a good thought, I guess, you know. But yeah, a little bit of, yeah. I was gonna say a little bit of meeting ego dick there, but no, 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 no. That's all spiritual dick.
That's even better.
Spiritual dick. Hey, there's a lot of dicks in this episode. I'm sorry. Just whoa, there goes another one. Watch out.
It's all that talk about enema earlier that
Oh God.
got you fucking thinking about it.
Don't tell people that.